Welcome to a Friday Reads, where I talk about what I read, what I'm reading, what I hope to get to next, and my audiobook game off the charts. Physical reading game, we're working on it. I had such a good physical reading bout during spring break, and then basically the minute I came home from my trip, physical reading was the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to watch TV, I wanted to knit, then work happened, and then it doesn't matter what I want. So I'm working on that, but I have finished three things, since we last chatted. I don't think it's more than that, but honestly, I didn't really take good notes, so here we are. And all of them were audio, though, suffice it to say. So let's start with the main one that I finished. That was also the longest thing I finished. These other two audios were quite short. So we have Into the Light by Marco Chiru, and I really enjoyed this. Well, as much as you can enjoy something this rough. It's really, really rough. It's definitely about this foster child dealing with their trauma. Like, already, they're a foster child. They're also Latine, but they're Latine in the foster system, so they're not really, they don't self-identify very strongly. They don't know what their parents were. They're always raised by white families. So we have that. All of this is just normal stuff that would be really hard to deal with. They're also gay, also tough. And then they get abandoned by the last family that did adopt them, who also happened to be very extreme religious people in kind of a cult setting that definitely had a conversion camp. All right, so that's what our main character had to deal with, and then they're living as a homeless child for the majority of the book, and they do meet a family, and you just see them dealing with their trust issues and their trauma, while also unpacking their past, which is kind of sort of the pseudo-thriller part of this book. At least those are the questions that keep you asking. To me, this felt more strongly general fiction contemporary than thriller or horror, but it does play around in those genres. And I do wonder how many people would be okay with what the ending kind of does, but I can't really talk about that because that's like the ending of the book. But it was a time. It was tough, but it was also engaging. I think I read half of it in one day between doing yard work and listening while knitting, and I was very invested in Manny and his struggles. There were really hard scenes to read. When he was on his own, the adults he had to try and pick and choose between trusting, and it didn't always pan out. There is, though, a lot of hope in it. And I think, I always talk about when I read books that have really hard subject matter, really dark, realistic stuff, I do like it for my taste to be paired with hope, with a chance for redemption and things like that. And that is here. Manny meets this guy, Carlos, and they can really bond and connect. And watching that friendship flourish was really satisfying. So I'm really glad that was paired in there, because there's also this whole journey is Manny trying to find his sister, but there's also a lot of trauma within that sibling bond. So there's a lot. Keep your secrets close to home. I don't know if that's the best tagline. I would say you need to be in the right headspace to consume this, especially if any of those things are relatable for you. But I do think there could be some catharsis, especially with the ending. If you need the bad guys to get theirs, it does happen. So that is also a part of this. I know not many people come to my channel for young adult recommendations, but this is an author who I feel really does it with care and really handles themes that are kind of ageless. So yeah, I enjoyed this. The other physical thing I've been reading is Broken Stars. That's just what I have in front of me, so I'll just talk about it before I forget. I've read a few more stories. I've read 2 more stories. They're engaging, but also I don't know if they stick with me. I don't know if I like what they did. So one of them is the author of The Three Body Problem, and I do think it kind of showed me that I'm not going to read The Three Body Problem. It's so weird. He's an engineer thinking in the hard sci-fi space. In this short story, I'm like, you are not thinking at all. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an energy, but I do have a physics degree. I am a scientist. And literally, I would not have done anything this character did and been surprised by the outcome. Just a tiny bit of thought. And also, I just felt like its thematic message I just completely disagree with. The answer is not, oh, when we do something to extremes, it doesn't work, so we might as well just deal with the shitty stuff we have now. That's not the answer. No, that's not, like, that all or nothing approach to problem solving is just the antithesis to what I am and what I believe. Because, yeah. Anyways, and then the third story started off kind of cool, like kind of contemporary, high school, and it was like, it's Chinese, so it's like in a high school setting I'm not used to. I'm interested in this character, and then it just like pivots left hard, and I can't tell if it's meant to be a discussion about a mental illness or, mental, like, disorder, but I think that's probably a sign that it wasn't done very well. And it was just like, well, I also don't know what I take away from this story now. Like, I thought we were going to explore X, and then I don't even know what we explored. So they were engaging, but I also don't know how I feel about either of their conclusions or the themes they were carrying through. So we'll see how this continues. I am trying to do a story a day, and especially since physical reading's been hard, so one of my challenges this week is to been reading a story a day from this. So that's been going well so far. Like, it's Wednesday when I'm filming this video, but I have read one Monday and Tuesday, and the one to read today is only 12 pages, so it seems manageable. The other audiobook I finished, which I wasn't really planning to listen to, but I got it for free from Libro.fm, so link down below. Libro.fm, it's just an audio subscription service, but you can send the profits to a local bookstore of your choice, but it's like the standard, I think, around $15 a month. You get a credit, you get a book. It's a nice app, and I really like that it does actually show you the percentage you have left and the percentage you've completed in addition to all the numbers, and Audible doesn't do that, and it bothers me all the time, and I know that's a stupid thing about Audible to bother me. Like, there's so much worse. But that's the thing where I'm just like, why can't you just tell me how much of this book I have read without making me do math? Like, I'm not bad at math, but I don't want to. I just want to know, have I read 20% of this book or not? Like, have I? Tell me. Anyways, also, if you hear anything in the background, it is incredibly windy out, and my neighbors have only gotten more of their weird cars out from the garage, so it only gets noisier around here. So that's to say, I got The Unworthy, which is by the author of Tender is the Flesh. Both of these are translated. This one came out, I think, in 2023 and was translated this year in English, so in 2025. And so I read Tender is the Flesh, and I talked about it on my channel a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I didn't think it was that interesting. Like, it had one interesting thing, which it couldn't even have been intentional because it was written before the pandemic, but I thought it was interesting how she predicted how people respond to pandemics and how it did correlate with our response, and it's like umbrellas versus masks and stuff like that. But for the most part, it reminded me of reading 20th century dystopian classic literature with that standard kind of weird blank slate average man character. Like, it was very 1984 in a lot of ways, but it wasn't the premise of 1984. But that's what it reminded me of. And I thought it was fine. Kind of had an ending I thought was a little subversive, but not that crazy. And I've largely not thought about it much since. And I also remember it kind of just being graphic and violent in ways that didn't shock me and didn't stick with me. So I just kind of felt like, I guess for me as a reader, it didn't really do anything. Like, it was just a little bit, like, the execution was just too much for me to even have an emotional response to it. So that's the baggage I come to this book with. And I chose to listen to it. And I will say that I wasn't really listening to it, like, maybe as closely as I would have if I was, like, really excited. But I was engaged enough, and I did consume this within a day. But again, I found this to be an oddly derivative dystopian. So it reminded me this time of The Handmaid's Tale, not in terms of content, but in terms of narrative framework. I was being reminded of the main character of The Handmaid's Tale, how we are getting the story as she sneaks away to record her thoughts. And that's the premise of this. And I just, like, the narrative framework is cool, but it's only super cool if the thoughts are worth anything. And again, I just have a very violent world to look at. It's very graphic, very violent. There is a scene I do not like because it is so, like, there's a scene at the end of this book where we're doing a flashback. And in this flashback, our character is being sexually assaulted graphically, and a cat dies. Okay? Like, no, I can't have both. So, like, that emotionally affected me, but in a way that made me angry because, again, I actually don't know why it happened. Like, I don't know why I needed to read that. Like, I don't, like, And again, I think this is kind of like back to when I was talking about Broken Stars. I think I just also disagree with the thesis, with the theme. So I think it's violent because we're in a post-apocalyptic world a la Mad Max Fury Road. And the idea is probably that at the end of days, while people are surviving, they only look out for themselves and they just become violent and detached from what we now consider empathy and humanity. And that's really embodied in the internal thoughts of our main character, who is just mean-spirited for a large portion of this book. And it's kind of also in the culture of this cult that she's kind of found herself in to survive. It's all about harm and sacrifice and tearing people down. And yes, I think people are selfish. But again, I don't believe this type of extreme is actually realistic to me. Or at least I don't want to. It's not an experiment that I find fulfilling. Like, I can just look outside now and see how bad people are to each other. I don't need to think of it to an extreme. At least not to motivate me to action or make me open my eyes. So to me, this is not helpful. And so again, it's just very violent. And then it's just very, like, predictable because it's derivative. You've read something like this before. It's, a very patriarchal cult where all these women exist, and the more pure you are, the more elevated you are, and there's a lot of self-harm and a lot of a lot of fake religious use to kind of claim that they can protect you from the ills of the world. And it's about how this one person processes their existence in this world, but I just don't find her interesting. I find her unrelatable. And I don't know. I think this character could have been written in a very interesting way, but it didn't work for me. So that's a me problem. And like I said, I came into this with baggage. And like the world building's fine, but it's like also one of those dystopians where it's like, you're not going to get to know why, because that's not the point. The point is processing how. But it's like, I can like stuff like that. Like, I really like Mad Max Fury Road without Furiosa. Like, Furiosa is an okay movie, but I don't need it. Like, Mad Max Fury Road, I don't need to know how we got there. That's an oddly violent world, but it works because it's paired with the humanity we know exists. And here it has some of that, but not enough through the lens we're looking in. So I think the execution hampers it a little bit. I don't know. I didn't really like it. I think. I didn't know what I thought, but I guess it does make me think a lot. But it makes me think a lot in terms of things I like better. And I don't like this that much. So I guess borrow it. Don't buy it is my recommendation. And the last thing I read was The Flowers of Vashnoi, which is very short. It's like 90 pages. It's a Verkosigan. And this was delightful. I read it Sunday. I think I finished it Monday morning. Oh, it was so good. Maybe I actually finished it Sunday night. I don't even know. It was very short. I had a lovely time with it. And yeah, so this is Ekaterin, who's a character you meet starting at Kamar in the series. And if you like Cordelia, Ekaterin is like they could be cousins. They have very similar ways of like looking at the world and problem solving. Like, they're not the same character, but they got a lot of the same DNA. Because authors, authors always fall into traps of writing characters that I think after they write enough books, you can kind of be like, yeah, you guys are a little similar. But that's okay. I mean, my favorite authors do that all the time, and it doesn't make me mad. And so I'm with this character, and there's always been this area on Bariyar that got very irradiated because of a war with Sidakanda. And we've always heard about that, and it's land that Miles owns, and it's just always there, and it's always like, one day, maybe, it will be safe for humans. And there's a potential. They're trying to do this experiment to see if they can, and then they discover people there in the process. And it's just like unpacking that encounter. And it's just very Verkosigan. It's very quiet. It's very light, and I really loved it. It's amazing, like all things for me and Verkosigan. So those are the things that I've read. I'm currently listening to and physically reading The Unkillable Princess. I caved and got the audiobook, much to my chagrin. It's in Hoopla, so I didn't buy it. It's one thing to change audio narrators, but this man is so different from the first one. He's like British. It's like not remotely the same. I don't really enjoy it. But if I don't listen to it, I'm never going to finish this book because I literally have like an hour a day that maybe I have the headspace to read, and that's just not going to be sustainable for this really long book. And I wanted to keep reading it. Like, I'm interested in the contents. Although right now, Sean is annoying me. And I hope it gets explained. Because so far it's not really been explained, at least to my satisfaction. But we know at the end of the first book that he gets this reveal. And it's like a really important reveal. And for some reason, he's keeping it secret from the people he's traveling with. And I do not think it's understandable why. And it's just making plot stuff. He keeps bringing it up, so I keep being reminded this doesn't make sense to me. And so I'm hoping it pans out. I'm hoping maybe it's just a case of Sean being a dum-dum, but, like, it's excessive. Like, especially now that one of them knows at least enough of the truth that I'm just like, why don't you just give him the whole truth? Like, I don't... So, Sean's annoying me. But I am consuming that. That's, like, kind of my primary read. And then the other one I'm reading each day is Broken Stars. And something that you'll see next week, I think that this is my current plan, is I've gotten access to all of the Nebula novels. And I'm going to do a chapter of all of them. And that's going to be my Friday reads next week because I kind of really want to, like, get a taste test. And then maybe that tells me what books I want to fit into the bingo board starting in April or what I want to put on future TBRs. I mean, I guess if one really makes me love it, maybe I'll finish it. But, like, you know, we'll see. And I honestly have no idea what I'm going to read. I got some romances that came in, and I've been in a weird mental health space, so, like, maybe it's time for a romance. I have 3 horror books to choose from if I want to read one by the end of the month, and I have an audiobook for all 3 of them if I wanted to pair with audiobooks. So, like, I do have Model Home, I do have Buffalo Hunter Hunter, and I also have I Was a Teenage Slasher. So I could predict any one of those 3 being an option. But my headspace is truly, like, brain rot watching Smallville at the moment. And it's not like Smallville is, like, amazing. Like, it's good. But it's not, like, Bones good. Like, it's got some really good episodes, and it's got some really weird episodes. And, you know, it's not known for its plot consistency. Although I've gotten back into listening to that podcast. And I'm way behind in the podcast than where I am in the show, and I'm way behind them in general because they're also now on season 6 and I'm at the end of season 4. But it's really fascinating listening to what they remember and the process and, like, how few plot points are told to the actors ahead of time. Like, they maybe know what's happening the next episode, and I just think that's really funny. But that's how TV used to be, and it probably still is for, like, main channels. All right, so that's this week so far. I'm a little, like, frazzled today. It was just not, you know, it was just not, like, an amazing day, but it's sunny outside, so after this, maybe I'll go outside and sit on the patio and enjoy the breeze and the 70-degree weather before it plummets back to 40 degrees for the rest of the week. Let me know what you're reading, doing, or watching. I still need to see Mickey 17. That still hasn't happened. Maybe this weekend. We'll see. We did rewatch Pitch Perfect last weekend, and, like, you know, it really does capture the time I went to college. What a time. What a time. If you want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here. I don't know. What do I... A princess crown. A tiara. There we go. And otherwise, like, if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.